What's happening everyone, my name is Alex and welcome back to a new review. For today we have a new action camera from Elecam, Elecam being a division of Elephone, which is a smartphone manufacturer. So this one here is called the Explorer Dual, and that's mostly because it has dual screens, one on the front and one on the back. This camera costs about $65 and it can record in 4K at 24 frames per second, 1080p at 60 frames per second or 720p at 120 frames per second. Now keep in mind that this camera is using the Novatek 96660 processor, and in reality that processor cannot record in 4K. So all the 4K recordings that you're gonna get from this camera are in fact interpolated recordings from 2K to 4K. So you're not really recording in 4K with this camera, you're actually recording in 2K. There are a couple of things worth mentioning. The first one would be the fact that the camera can make a Wi-Fi network, and therefore you can control this camera right from your smartphone. Of course, you're gonna have to download an app on your smartphone, and you can find that app in the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. Once you have that installed, you can make a Wi-Fi network with the camera and connect to it with your smartphone. And once connected, you have access to all the settings for the camera, and you can actually start recording and basically see everything that the camera sees. If you have previous recordings on the camera, you can see them and download them on your smartphone as well. The second thing worth mentioning is the fact that the camera has image stabilization. You can use the image stabilization for any resolution, so 4K, 1080p or whatever you choose. And next I'm going to show you a couple of examples with the image stabilization on and with the image stabilization off. And as you've seen for yourself, the image stabilization works quite good, but that's quite normal for the Novatek 96660. Another important factor for any action camera is the quality of the recordings from the microphone. Next we are going to check out some recordings that I've done with the microphone.
This is a quick microphone test to this new Elecam that I'm trying out. I'm currently in the car, the windows are open, so it's quite noisy in the car here. And this is how the microphone sounds under these conditions. This is our second microphone test. This time around I am outside. You can probably hear the water up here. But other than that, you should only be able to hear my voice. So this is how the microphone sounds.
This is yet another microphone test. This time around I am inside and there is no other noise aside from my voice. And of course my voice doesn't sound that good because I have a cold. But this is how the microphone sounds under these conditions. So as you've seen and heard for yourself, the microphone sounds a bit echoey, and that echo doesn't actually happen in reality. So it's only happening whenever you're recording something. So definitely not the best microphone recordings that I've heard. Next we're gonna start with a very quick unboxing. So yet a rather small box that has no information on it whatsoever and a picture of the camera on the front. Inside you're gonna find the waterproof case and the camera, and the manufacturer suggests that the waterproof case is good to up to 30 meters in the water. But as always I haven't actually been swimming with it, but I did have the waterproof case in water and there was no water going in. There is also a small user manual. The user manual is in English and it's got a whole bunch of instructions and pictures, so if this is your first action camera, that could be useful. Aside from that, we're gonna find a whole bunch of mounts and accessories, and actually more than I was expecting considering how small the box is. And we are moving to the camera itself. So the camera itself looks just like a GoPro 4 and it doesn't feel that cheap. I mean, I've had a lot in the past that feel much cheaper than this one. So on the front we have a small display that will show you different things like the recording resolution, the time and so on. We also have the mode button and the power off button, and there is also an LED there, and unfortunately you cannot turn off that LED. And aside from that, of course, we have the brand name and the lens. On top we have the recording button, and that's also an OK button, the speaker and an LED, and unfortunately you cannot turn off that LED. On the right hand side you're gonna find two buttons that will help you navigate the camera's menu, and on the other side we have a micro USB port, the HDMI out, a slot for an SD card and a microphone. Now, if you check out the manual, it says that this camera can take SD cards up to 64 gigs. So I installed an SD card that had 64 gigs and unfortunately the camera cannot see the SD card at all. However, if I put a 32 gig SD card inside, it works fine. So this time I'm gonna say the maximum capacity for SD cards is 32 gigs. This camera can also be used while charging it, so if you have a power bank connected to the camera, you can still record in the same time. And the camera also has a car dash mode, so you can basically plug this in your car and it will start recording and stop recording whenever you turn on or off the car. And since we are talking about charging, at the bottom of the camera you're gonna find a rechargeable 1050 milliamp battery. Now you're gonna be able to get about an hour of recording in 1080p and about 40 minutes of recording in 4K, but it really depends how you use the camera because it could be different for each individual user. And lastly, on the back of the camera we have a 2-inch screen that doesn't have the best resolution, doesn't have the best viewing angles, and it doesn't get that bright. So whenever you're outside in bright daylight, well, it's gonna be a bit difficult to actually see the screen. And next we're gonna check out the most important part for any camera, and that is the quality of the recordings. So first we're gonna check out some daytime recordings. And as you've seen for yourself, the quality of the recordings is not bad, but I don't believe it's the best that we've seen from the Novatek 96660, and we've seen quite a few on the channel here. Next we're gonna check out some recordings that I've done at nighttime. And as you've seen, nighttime recordings aren't horrible, but they aren't exceptional either. The camera can also do time lapses, and all you have to do is press one button and the camera will do the rest. And this is a very short time lapse that I've done with this camera yesterday. You can also take pictures with this camera, and you actually have the possibility of saving pictures in RAW, which is not something that we see for every action camera. Now the picture quality is just average, so I've seen better for daytime pictures and for nighttime pictures. And lastly, using the camera, it's very simple. So you have the on-off button on the front, and that's also a mode button. So from that button you basically switch in between video mode and picture taking mode, so it's very easy to do. Each mode has its own individual settings, so if you're in the video recording mode, you can just go in the settings for that mode, and there you can change the recording resolution, the gyro stabilization, and so on. And the same for the picture taking mode, you can change the resolution for pictures and much more. So overall, using the camera, it's very simple. You just have to go through those menus and basically change anything that you may need to change for whatever you are recording. So there you have it. This is the Elecam Explorer Dual. So even though it's not a bad camera, it's far from being exceptional as well. Alright guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did like it, press that like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.